Myself, Dr. BJD Kalyani, working as Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering of Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. In this video, I will discuss regarding control flow testing. The course outcomes of Object-Oriented Software Engineering consists of 6 outcomes. The topic is mapped to the two course outcomes, CO5 and CO6. The CO5 is explain various testing approaches and automation tools. CO6 is explain the importance of software maintenance and re-engineering process. The basic agenda of this video is what is white box testing and what is the importance of white box testing, what are the major testing techniques of white box, how control flow testing is used in the white box testing, and how to assess the cyclomatic complexity. So, we have to define what is white box testing. White box testing is a software testing method in which the internal structure and implementation of software being tested are known and used as the basis for designing the test cases. Though the program structure, internal logic of the program is considered in case of white box testing. It involves testing the software at the code level and requires a deep understanding of code and design of the software. The white box tester can consist of knowledge about system architecture as well as the coding skills. It also known as glass box testing, transparent testing, clear box and structural testing. So in this case of white box testing, the application code is the major part of testing. So the test engineer can have knowledge of logical skills and coding skills, and the test cases are designed based on these coding skills according to the system architecture and checking the code produces correct functionality or not. So the unit testing, integration testing and at the system testing, the programming skills of test engineer is required to test the white box testing. The scope of the white box testing is identify software applications issues and logical errors frequently appearing can be fixed after development and implementation of control conditions functions that do not include in the software application. So the major basis path, the independent paths, the looping structures, control structures, case structures are considered in case of white box testing. One can take the design flaws resulting from the mismatch between the application's logic flow and implementation. So the syntax checking, the topographical corrections are done in case of white box testing. The entry and exit requirements of white box testing are intra-company security gaps, paths in the coding process that are broken or poorly organized. So the path, independent path, and from the starting of the program to the exit of the program, how many paths the program can flow, those are the major basis for the white box testing. The particular input sent through the code, expected results, condition loops capabilities, independent testing of each statement, object and function. So the program flow is purely tested in the case of white box testing. Hence, the condition loop capabilities and testing of each statement, object and functions are required in case of white box testing. Why to perform white box testing? So need the white box testing technique practices in the software development life cycle to ensure the security of the application only the authorized users can access the application, and it can use to avoid the vulnerabilities and viruses in case of the application development. And the path, the correct path and optimized path is selected and tested in case of white box testing, so that the code can be optimized and path redundancy is reduced greatly in case of white box testing. Thoroughness, each and every path is tested so that the thoroughness of application is testing of an application is achieved in case of white box testing. Quality assurance. So all conditional paths, looping paths, branching coverage, statement coverage, maximum code coverage is achieved in case of white box testing, which will ensure the quality of the application. So paths are exercised, so there is a chance of detecting the bugs early of the software development life cycle. Types of white box testing. The first variety is the unit testing. The independent component of the application is tested. So those are called the unit testing. So it is the small independent component of the program which cannot be further divided. So testing applied on these units is generally referred as unit testing, and this unit testing is generally used checking each part separately. For example, if you take a bicycle, the bicycle brakes, chains, seat, all these parts are individually developed and verified if they tested okay and they are integrated. Similar way, independent component of an application is tested in case of unit testing. Next variety is static analysis. So this is like proofreading a book before it's published. So before execution of the application code, the analysis is done to verify and to identify the errors in the application. So before releasing a book in the market, proofreading helps a lot in order to identify the grammar mistake, the look and feel errors in case of setting the papers and the print margins. All these can be verified in the proofreading before it is delivered into the market or it is published. So similar way, before executing the code itself, the static analysis helps to identify the errors with inspections, walkthroughs, variety of techniques. Dynamic analysis is during execution, the errors are identified in case of dynamic analysis. So this would be like test driving a car. A car is completed its manufacturing, test driving and verifying the errors in the production of a car. Similar way, after completion of the application can be executed and verify the errors. Another way of white box testing is statement coverage. The majorly maximum code coverage is achieved with the help of white box testing. So each and every independent path of the program flow is verified in case of statement coverage. So you can take a real scenario of teacher is checking the students' homework. In case of checking of homework, each statement, each line of the problem solving, ensuring that whether the student is answered clearly, properly or not. Similar way, each part of the program is exercised in case of statement coverage. Another variety is the branch coverage. In this, exploring all possible routes like on the GPS. So the branch can have alternative paths. Each path can be considered in case of white box testing. So the real scenario is exploring all possible routes on the GPS. So from a source to the destination, we are having n number of paths. So those paths can be exercised in case of branch testing. Next one, path testing. So this would be like a postman ensuring they can deliver mail to every house on their route. So each route passing the statements, the path of the program flow is checked in case of path testing. Next, loop testing. So loop testing is used to exercise all possible paths with variety of black box testing technique so as to minimize the number of test case designing in the loop testing with boundary value analysis. So these test cases can ensure that lower bound, upper bound and middle range of the loop can be executed successfully. So this is like checking a pair list on a repeat. So these are the variety of types of white box testing. Now we'll see one example. This is the sample code. So here we are calculating the sum of two variables, and if the result is greater than 0, the positive is displayed. Otherwise, the negative is displayed as the result. So here this is the condition. Based on that, one path is positive path and the second path is negative path. How the black box testing is considered here. So input taking, and here print function, the result is a plus b, and here the decision or condition is checked. The predicate or condition can have two alternative paths, true path as well as false path. So the positive path is, this is the true path, and this is the negative path, that is the false path. So with the help of the program, the control flow graph can be developed. So the test cases are designed to exercise both the paths. This is the test case that is used to check the positive path of the program. The second test case is concentrating to check the negative path of the program. Variety of white box testing tools are available like JUnit, NUnit and TestNG. White box testing process is a stepwise process which consists of understanding the source code, identifying testable paths, develop test cases, execute test cases and monitor, code coverage analysis, review and debug, repeat as necessary. So in case of this example, we discussed after the program structure, identifying the paths and with the help of control flow graph and writing or designing the test cases. And these cases can be executed with the help of automation tools. So here, after executing code coverage analysis, review and debugging, repeat as necessary steps can be taken place. Two major white box testings techniques are popular. One is basis path testing. Second one is control flow testing. What is basis path testing is, it is one of the popular white box testing technique. So it can concentrate on programs, modules or control structures. A control flow graph is created using this structure, and maybe many possible paths in this graph are tested using this structure. Because this testing is dependent on program's control structure, it is necessary thorough understanding of program structure is required in case of basis path testing. The importance of basis path testing is, a tester examines the code base to identify all possible paths. All possible paths can be identified, and these paths are then written as the Test cases. After identifying the test path, test cases are designed to ensure all different identified scenarios in the main branches are covered. Higher test coverage is then achieved with test cases are executed typically through a form of unit testing. The tester established a baseline by selecting the most critical, common, obvious path through the code selection. So, to achieve the basis path testing, after completion of this technique, one more popular white box testing is control flow testing. The aim of this testing is to determine execution order of the statements or instructions of the program through the control structures. So the control structures like conditional control structures, looping control structures, branching control structures are concentrated in case of control flow testing. Control structures of the program is used to develop the test cases for the program. So test case design majorly concentrated on the control structures used in the program. In this technique, a particular part of large program is selected by the tester to test the testing path. It is mostly used the unit testing. Test cases represented by the control flow graph of the program. The advantage of control flow testing is it detects almost half of the defects that are determined during the unit testing. It also determines almost 1/3 of the defects of the whole program. It can be performed manually or with the help of automation tools. So it is generally used by the tester to uncover most of the errors in case of unit testing. The disadvantage is it is difficult to find the missing parts if the program and model are done by the same person. So development testing is carried out by the same person or the same division, then to identify missing path is a difficult task. Unlikely to find spurious features. These are the disadvantages of control flow testing. Then what is the process of control flow testing? What are the steps involved in the control flow testing are control flow graph creation, coverage target, test case creation, test case execution, analysis of the result. Control flow graph creation. From the program, it is required to develop the control flow graph in order to identify paths in the program. From the given source code, a control flow graph is created either manually or with the help of software tools. Control flow graph is formed from the node, edge, decision node, junction node to specify all possible execution paths. So a flow graph, control flow graph consists of nodes, and the nodes can be connected with edges. In case of multiple paths can combined to a node, then this is called junction node. And based on a condition, if paths are divided, then these are called decision node. So these are the major components while creating the control flow graph. So this is the example of control flow graph. These are the nodes and these are the variety of edges. And this is example of decision node based on a condition. Based on the condition, alternative paths may be taken. This is one example of decision node. This is also example of decision node. And what are the notations that are generally used in the control flow graph creation is, the first one is sequence. Second one is decision, that is Based on the condition, what are the alternative paths? Third one is looping. Fourth one is branching, that is case statement. So these are the four notations used for the development of control flow graph. So we'll take one example. So here the program is used to test the vote eligibility age. So taking a variable n with an input of 45, and if the n is greater than or equal to 80, then only the voter is you are eligible for voting. Otherwise, you are not eligible for voting. So checking of the voter age. If the age is greater than or equal to 80, then only the citizen is eligible for voting. Otherwise, he is not eligible for voting. So for that, this is the start, and taking the age as input and checking here the age whether it is greater than or equal to 80. If it all it is yes, the true path is eligible for voting. Otherwise, the false path is not eligible for voting. So like this, the control flow graph can be constructed to identify the independent path of the program. So this control flow graph can be drawn manually or with the help of software tools. The popular software tools for the control flow graph creation is Lucidchart, OmniGraph, Eclipse CFG Generator, Aurora. So these are the software tools that can be used to draw the control flow graphs. The steps for drawing the control flow graph is coverage target. So a coverage target is defined over the control flow graph that indicates nodes, edges, path and branches. So all these components are considered for the coverage target. Based on these identified paths, test case creation can be carried out. So test cases are created using control flow graphs to cover defined coverage target. After designing the test cases are executed to cover over the coverage target. Further test cases, if it are needed, those are also executed in order to create the test scripts. After that, the analysis phase is to analyze the result and find out whether the program is error-free or has some defects. So, in case of test case creation, the expected result of the application is identified. After test case execution, the actual result of the test case is identified. If the expected result and actual result both are same, the test is passed. Otherwise, the test is failed. All these failed test cases are considered as defects and are reported. Loop testing is one of the paths of control flow testing. So here it is a type of software testing and is performed to validate the looping structures. In a program, generally we can have for loop, while loop, repeat loop. These looping structures can be verified with the help of loop testing. It is one of the type of control flow testing and it is a white box testing technique. The objectives of loop testing is to fix infinite loop repetition problem, to know the performance of the loop, to identify loop initialization problems, to determine uninitialized variables in the loops. There are four types of loops: simple loop, nested loop, concatenated loop, unstructured loop. The simple loop is after the statement, the loop structure can be checked and this path is repeatedly executed until the given condition is true. And in case of nested loop, within a loop, one more loop is initiated. So those loops are called nested loops. Concatenated loops are after completion of one loop, immediately the next loop is started. Those are called concatenated loops. Unstructured loops, we cannot predict the program flow. These are called unstructured loops. The advantages of loops testing is loop testing limit number of iterations of the loop, and it ensures program does not go into the infinite loop process. And loop testing ensures initialization of every variable used inside the loop. Loop testing helps identification of different problems inside the loop, and it is used to determination of capacity or the performance is increased with the help of loop testing. The disadvantages of loop testing is this is generally used to the bug detection in the low-level software, and loop testing is useful in the bug detection. In case of infinite loops can be easily detected in case of loop testing, but it is very low level and the program level. So the programming skills and logical skills are greatly required for the test engineer. And after the control flow graph, that flow graph can be converted into graph matrices in order to identify cyclomatic complexity of the control flow graph. How many number of nodes in the control flow graph? The matrix can have n by n size. Here number of flow graph, the nodes of the control flow graph are 5. So the matrix is of 5 by 5 size. If at all a connection exists between nodes, then it can be written as the weight. For 1, 2, 3, an edge is there. So the weight of the edge is written in the intersection of node 1 and 3 connected node graph. So the 1 and 3rd column, first row and 3rd column intersection, the weight of this edge can be written. Similarly, for the next 3 to 2, the connection is exists. The weight has to be represented here, the intersection of 3rd row and 2nd column. In this way, the graph matrix is developed from the control flow graph. This graph matrix is used in order to identify the basic metric of the test case design is cyclomatic complexity. So from the graph matrix, each row sum plus 1 can be calculated. Here the first row, if you consider, it is having 3 ones. So 3 plus 1, 3 minus 1 can be considered. So the 2 is the output of it. And if you take the second row, the sum of row values is 1. 1 minus 1, it is the 0. After calculating the row sums like this, all row sums has to be submitted plus 1 can give the cyclomatic complexity. Here the row sums are 2 plus 0 plus 0. And after that a 1 has to be added in order to identify number of test cases to design the maximum test code coverage. The cyclomatic complexity is represented as 3. So in this video, I discussed what is the white box testing, 2 major techniques, basis path testing and the control flow testing. In the control flow testing, what is the importance of control flow graph? How this flow graph is converted into graph matrix? How this matrix is used for the assessment of cyclomatic complexity? And a variety of control flow testing is the loop testing is concentrated. And the references used in this video are these. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.